Hey guys, Nate Harris here with StoneRiver OUTFITTERS. Thanks for joining me. In today's video, I'm going to share with you how to construct a basic Hairwing pattern for Steelhead as represented by one of my all-time personal favorites, the traditional Dale Cooper, also known to many as the Surgeon's General. Alright, let's get started. We'll begin with a high-quality, long-shank, stout wire, up-eyed salmon iron. What we've chosen today is Daiichi's 2051 Alec Jackson Spay Hook in a size 3, a great all-around choice for a variety of conditions. And the thread we're using is Danville's 70 denier 6/0 Flymaster, color wine. We'll start the Dale Cooper like we do all of our flies with a standard jam knot placed comfortably behind the tapered return loop eye, and naturally, once snug, we'll go ahead and rid ourselves of the excess with a quick tug. Next, we'll secure in hand our flat silver and gold mylar tinsel. What we're using today is Danville's size 12, and after snipping a comfortable 4 to 5 inch working length from our spool, we'll go ahead and secure our tinsel firmly against the hook shank with the silver side down and the gold side facing out, using a few well-placed, tight turns of thread. Once secure, we'll then bind our tinsel rearward towards the hook bend using smooth, evenly spaced wraps, continuing until we've reached a stopping position located about 1/4 of an inch or so in front of our hook point. We'll then take a moment to advance our thread quickly forward again towards the hook eye, moving our bobbin comfortably out of the way, and then, under pretty heavy tension and at a pretty steep angle of attack, we'll begin wrapping rearwards our silver tinsel tip. Working smoothly towards the hook bend using carefully controlled, closely laid, tightly drawn turns, we'll continue rearward until our tinsel's trailing edge is approximately flush with the hook point. Once there, we'll then simply begin wrapping our tinsel forward again towards the hook eye, winding as we did before using tightly drawn, steeply angled turns, but this time moving progressively forward along the hook shank's entirety, creating as we go a nice, smooth, continuous, double-layered tip and underbody of silver tinsel. Once we reach our stop, located well up towards but comfortably behind our hook eye, we'll then go ahead and tie off our tinsel using a couple of well-placed thread wraps. And naturally, once firmly secured, we'll go ahead and lift then trim away the excess tinsel neatly at its base with a quick snip from our scissors. In preparation for creating the Dale Cooper's tail, we'll next take a moment to wind our bobbin rearward towards the hook bend using smooth, evenly spaced turns, and we'll carefully position our thread a comfortable 1/4 of an inch or so again in front of the hook point. Then, to create the tail, we'll grab in hand our red-dyed golden pheasant crest, and after selectively pulling from it 1 or 2 nicely curved feathers, lightly wetting them of course to help even and align their tips, we'll then take a moment to briefly pre-measure our crest against the hook shank, ensuring for proportion's sake that our tail's end lines up approximately flush with the hook bend's trailing edge. Once satisfied, we'll then go ahead and tie our crest firmly in place on the hook shank's top using a few nice tight turns, and once firmly secured, we'll then wind our thread smoothly forward again towards the hook eye, binding down the remainder of our crest feather stem as we go. Naturally, once snugly bound, we'll go ahead and lift then trim the excess feather stem away neatly from the hook shank with a close, careful snip. Next, to create this version of the Dale Cooper's body, we're going to use a combination of 2-ply uni-wool yarn, color purple, and for our rib, we've selected Uni's French oval tinsel, size small, color of course silver. After snipping a comfortably long 5 to 6 inch working length of the purple yarn from our spool, we'll go ahead and tie our wool firmly in place forward towards the hook eye using a few nice tight thread turns. We'll then chase our yarn immediately at the tie-in point with a good 4 to 5 inch working length of our silver oval tinsel rib. Once snugly secured, we'll next simultaneously bind both rearward along the hook shank using nice, smooth, evenly spaced thread wraps, continuing progressively towards our hook bend until we've again reached that comfortable stop located about 1/4 of an inch or so in front of the hook's sharpened point. Once there, we'll then quickly advance our bobbin forward to a resting position located close to, but not crowding, our hook eye. And with our thread now comfortably out of the way, we'll next begin wrapping forward our purple wool body. Working smoothly and continuously forward along the hook shank's entirety, using moderately tensioned, carefully controlled, close and abutting turns, we'll continue wrapping forward with our wool until we've at long last again reached that optimal stop located well up towards, but comfortably behind, our hook's upturned eye. Of course, once there, we'll take a moment to tie off our purple yarn snugly against the hook shank using a couple of tight, well-placed thread wraps. And again, once firmly secured, we'll go ahead and lift then trim away the excess wool neatly at its base with a quick snip from our scissors. Next, using a firm grip and an even steeper angle of attack, we'll begin winding forward towards the hook eye in counterwound fashion, meaning in the opposite direction of our wool, our silver oval tinsel rib. And while Steelhead can't count, for tradition's sake, we want to arrive at our rib's end with 5 or so nice, evenly spaced wraps of silver oval tinsel. Once satisfied with our work, we'll then go ahead and tie our tinsel off securely behind the hook eye using a few well-placed, tightly drawn thread wraps. And again, once snugly secured, we'll go ahead and trim away the excess oval tinsel neatly at its base with a quick careful snip from our scissors. Next, to create the Dale Cooper's signature white wing, we'll grab in hand a nice, high-quality patch of white, straight, fine-tipped hair. What we're using here today is Select Kid Goat, distributed by Hairline. And after snipping a small, sparse, even-tipped clump from the patch, we'll take a moment to briefly pre-measure our hair against the hook shank, ensuring for proportion's sake that our wing's end lines up approximately flush and in line with the hook's pinched barb. A quick, careful transfer of the pinch to our offhand, and a close, tidy pre-snip, followed naturally by a small dab of thin head cement to the hair clump's freshly trimmed ends. And we'll then go ahead and mount our wing firmly in place directly on top of the hook shank using a few carefully placed, tight turns of thread. A brief rolling sweep or two with wet fingers perhaps, to help tame our wing, ridding it of any loose, unsecured hairs, and a nice firm pinch if need be too, as well, to help settle our cemented wraps, and we're now ready to begin hackling. For the Dale Cooper's collar, we'll pluck a single, properly proportioned, soft, webby, red-dyed hen neck feather, and we'll prepare it like we do most, by carefully trimming back the feather's tip and stripping from its base any excess fluff. Then with tip facing front, and the feathers naturally cup side facing down, we'll go ahead and secure our feather snugly to the hook shank using a few well-placed, tight thread wraps. Of course, to keep our feather from pulling free while folding or wrapping, we'll take a moment to bend the stem rearward along the hook shank before installing a final 2 or 3 nice tight locking turns. Once firmly secured, we'll next briefly pre-fold our hackle by drawing a squared, non-sharpened edge of our scissor blade or the back edge of our hackle pliers smoothly but firmly a few times along both sides of the feather's stem. Once adequately folded, we'll then begin winding forward towards the hook eye our red hen hackle collar. Wrapping forward using a sparse 2 or 3 carefully controlled, tightly drawn, close abutting turns. Once satisfied with our collar, we'll then go ahead and tie off our hackle snugly behind the hook eye with a few nice tight thread wraps. Remembering, of course, for durability's sake, to gently sweep our feather stem rearward before installing a final few nice tight locking turns. And naturally, once firmly secured, we'll then go ahead and carefully lift and trim the excess stem away neatly at its base with a quick snip from our scissors. Next, to prepare ourselves some working space for the second wing's installation, we'll take a moment to briefly sweep, pinch, and part our red hackle collar, creating along the hook shank's top a nice V-shaped trough. Once satisfied with our collar's part, we'll then go ahead and grab in hand our white, straight, fine-tipped kid goat hair, and we'll again snip from it another small, sparse bundle, and as we did before, we'll take a moment to briefly pre-measure the hair clump against our hook shank ensuring our wing's end lines up evenly with the first. Another quick transfer of the pinched bunch to our offhand, followed by a nice, neat, tidy pre-snip. Remembering too to add a small daub of cement to the freshly trimmed ends, and we'll then mount our wing squarely in place along the hook shank's top and immediately in front of our parted collar, using a few well-placed, carefully controlled, and tightly drawn turns of thread. Next, to prepare our fly for completion, we'll go ahead and give our collar a quick firm pinch, followed by a gentle, sweeping, rolling twist or two of the wing as well to help dress and align everything to our liking. And once satisfied with our appearance, we'll go ahead and wrap ourselves a nice, smooth, level sloping head of thread, covering any remaining exposed hair ends as we go. Naturally, once covered, we'll then go ahead and finish our fly using a standard, well-placed, carefully controlled whip knot. A brief snug pinch and pull with our bobbin, of course, to ensure our whip knot holds. And once tightly fastened, we'll go ahead and trim away the excess thread neatly at its base with a close, careful snip from our scissors. One last final dressing pinch of the collar, and a gentle rolling sweep or two of the wing with wet fingers to ensure a handsomely sleek, low-swept wing angle. And we'll end the Del Cooper, like we do all of our flies, by applying a small daub of high-build head cement or clear glossy lacquer, drug smoothly and evenly with care around the head's entirety. Well friends, there we have it, the traditional Del Cooper tied start to finish. It's important to remember, as hinted when we began, that the basic construction sequence we learned here today can be applied quite universally to a wide number of other Steelhead classics. By simply substituting alternatively colored tinsels, bodies, collars, and wings, we can easily craft other Hairwing favorites like the Steelhead Black Skunk, the Night Dancer, the Patricia, and more. Hey guys, thanks again for tuning in today. Be sure to visit us on the web for all your fly fishing and fly tying needs, and as always, snug wraps and tight lines to all.